Welcome to the Mystery to Mastery podcast with your host, Keisha Shepard, where ideas become action and stories inspire growth. Through powerful conversations with founders, innovators, and industry leaders, we explore the journeys behind success, the lessons learned along the way, and the strategies shaping the future. Join us as we turn insight into impact and transform mystery into mastery. All right, it's time for a quick word from our sponsors. Number one, we have HBCU by association. This is so exciting because we are launching our website now, and you can get online and network with other HBCU alumni. So go online, hbcubyassociation.com. We're there to work, learn, and play. Looking forward to seeing you there. Welcome to the Mystery to Mastery podcast. Today's guest is Ronald Willis. Ronald Willis graduated from Morgan State College in 1973 with a degree in sociology. He entered the workforce during the era of affirmative action, learned to advocate for himself inside predominantly white professional environments, and became a safety engineer, served his community and country, and began purchasing Baltimore property at a time when he had no intention of becoming a landlord. What started with one home purchased in 1976 grew into a decades-long journey of ownership and lessons about credit, negotiation and sacrifice, resilience, community, and ambition. Today, we are going beyond real estate advice, and we are uncovering the decisions, relationships, setbacks, and moments of courage that helped Ronald Willis move from uncertainty to ownership and from mystery to mastery. Mystery AI is a proud sponsor of the Morgan STEM Expo, featuring OIC of America STEM Fest. This is such an exciting time. The event is going to be on September 26th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We need volunteers, students, exhibitors, and sponsors. If you're interested, visit mysteryai.net/STEM. How are you today?
Fine. I'm fine.
Great.
You?
Great. I'm so excited to have you here. I got to first meet you when we were on the Improve and Progress radio show together. And I am so excited because I was like, I need to get him on this podcast. So my first question for you was, who was Ronald Willis when you first arrived at Morgan State College?
17-year-old looking to decide if college career was for me, or like most 17, 18-year-olds at that time, we were faced with the military draft. So I did not want to go in the military at that time, but I chose Morgan State University because it's a school. It was a liberal arts college, and I wanted to at least give myself a try at college to see what other careers I could pursue.
Once I was doing my research on you, and you described yourself as a C student with a serious stutter.
Yes.
What did Morgan professors see in you had not learned to see in yourself?
Well, I was a C student all the way through high school, and I had a poor memory. I could remember important things that were, if I did those things over and over and over again. And so the teachers, some of these teachers at Morgan encouraged me to do public speaking in the class. And not knowing what major I wanted to start off with, I took a social science class under my first white instructor. Dr. Breslaw was her name. And she helped with the ridicule that I got from classmates when I tried to explain Karl Marx theory and other theories of sociology at that time. And she encouraged me to continue in front of the class and describing the various sociological theories, because it came easy to me to describe these theories, that helped to reduce, if not eliminate, my stuttering problem. So that increased my confidence. Plus, I was on a choir at Morgan State University and a singer there. And I was a tenor, first tenor in high school and in college. And that got me out of the stuttering, gave me more confidence. And slowly but surely, it decreased and went away.
Wow. Wow, that's so amazing. I didn't know you were in the choir. Who was
Mhm.
director at that time? Was it
Dr. Eubanks was his name,
Dr. Eubanks? Oh, wow.
charge of the chapel choir and the general choir at Morgan. Yes.
That's amazing. So take us inside. Oh, you already did this. Your father also helped you attend Morgan, even though he could not read or write. What did that sacrifice mean to you?
I know, I knew at the time that I wanted to be educated beyond the high school level. And he was an immigrant from, an illegal immigrant from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. And so I really didn't know him quite at all until somewhere around age 15, 16 years old because of his work. He was a merchant marine seaman. He was a chief cook on those ships. And so, although he had been around the world many, many times, he didn't absorb culture. So he was a quiet man and knew nothing about quadratic equations, subject verb agreements, but he could tell you everything about Baltimore City because he had a phenomenal mind of landmarks. So he was uh, fluent in that way. And when I asked him, I needed money for college, he was resisting at first, but with a little persuasion, he gave me full tuition of 8 semesters at Morgan State College at that time. And he never attended my high school graduation or my college graduation. He was rarely home. He traveled around the world on these ships. So, but if it hadn't been for that $1,000 at that time, because Morgan's tuition at that time as a college was $99.50 a semester. So if you go for 8 semesters, you at least would have tuition. And I promised him that I would do the best I could to finish. And that $1,000 and me working full-time, part-time jobs all the way through Morgan is when I graduated, 1973.
Wow. What kind of jobs were you doing while you were at Morgan? I didn't know.
Well, I was a bellhop at the Holiday Inn downtown, and that gave me a really view of the world. I would meet people, white people from the deep South, keeping in mind now, I came from a purely black environment, black high school, black church, black community. So now I had my first big job at 16 years old as a bellhop at the Holiday Inn downtown. So I was forced to be vocal because people would come from all over the world to the Holiday Inn and see my name tag, and they would ask questions about Baltimore. So now I'm faced talking to white people for the first time and saying, what am I going to tell them about Baltimore? But I learned enough about Baltimore City, the Holiday Inn downtown, to tell them where to go. And I noticed that, gee, the more I talked, the more their tips kept on increasing. So,
Nice.
so it improved my vernacular, improved my education. And I saw a white person, let's say from the deep South, who, although he recognized my name as a bellhop, boy this, boy that, take my bags here, take my bags here. And I saw that personality. Then I would meet somebody from deeper South of the United States. Mr. Willis, how are you today? Can you tell me about the what uh, places to go in Baltimore City? So I got a constant mixture of that, constant mixture of whites and blacks from all over the world. And they were most of the time very encouraging people because they were, I would say, mentoring in their in their knowledge to say, here's a young kid who's trying to make it through college. And at that time, in 1966, 67, 65, the, uh, the, uh, the average wage for a blue collar worker was $1.25 an hour. So it was contingent upon tips that helped me pay my books at Morgan, the fees, etc. But it forced me to be more vocal and not shy and timid. And I found and have a outgoing personality that usually translated into bigger tips, meeting people who were very friendly. And I met one of my favorite singers, Nancy Wilson, at that
You
time.
did.
And I met Nancy Wilson, played cards with her because she did concerts at the Civic Center downtown Baltimore, and she stayed at the Holiday Inn. So that was quite a revelation to meet at that time one of my favorite singers. Yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't know about this backstory, so this is very exciting.
Oh yeah.
It's exclusive here.
Exactly. Go
One of
ahead.
one of the things you've also said is that a university can not teach academics. So, but it can't, I mean, it can teach academics, but it cannot replace ambition inside of a person. So, where did your ambition come from?
Well, keep in mind I lived in the inner city and I saw drug addiction, alcoholism, womanizing. I was surrounded by crime. And I decided I just didn't want to be a part of that. And so, even though my only brother, died from an overdose of drugs, and I was close to Rudolph, was his name. And I just decided that I've got to get out of here. Plus, in those days, in the 60s, there was black and white TV before your time, I'm sure, black and white TV. So I developed a love for a hobby of cars. And one particular car was the Formula One. And it's a race car that they have a particular race once a year called the Grand Prix in France. And as a little 5-year old, 10-year old, 12-year old, one day I'm going to go there. I'm going to go to France and watch the cars race around the city. And so what I'm saying is, I had a vision that if I'm going to be a part of that, I'm going to have to make enough money, do the right things to visit France one day. And I did. Many years later, I actually spent 12 beautiful days in Rome, France, and in Venice. So that was a boyhood dream come true. So what I'm trying to say is I had a I had a love for what's in America, that cars. And I still have a love for cars. But now I have a love for a particular car, which we will talk about later. But in other words, between the newspapers and mostly television, I said I want to be a middle class person one day. I don't want
Mm,
to stay and live in poverty. So although I wasn't a part of abject poverty, my parents never took us, Rudolph and myself, beyond the Beltway. But I wanted to know what was beyond the Beltway. I wanted to know what was beyond the shores of the United States. So that that created an ambition to not want to be like a product of my environment.
very, very good. One of my favorite things to do is travel, and France is one of those places that's just kind of magical, right? So I'm really glad you got to have that experience
Yes,
and with the race cars.
yes.
So we're going to move on to the second part of our segment, and this is about opportunity and self-advocacy. So how did Morgan connect you to Bethlehem Steel, and what did that opportunity represent to you?
Okay, so all colleges have a placement office for seniors, placement office for seniors. And so there's Morgan. And so at the beginning of my senior year, I went to the placement office. The placement officer was James Roberts, and he was the person that would tell first semester seniors, hey, this company's coming, that company's coming, that government agency is coming to recruit people. So although most seniors are just tired of school at that time, we put our time in, that little bit more ambition to go to the this office on campus and to talk to these incoming recruiters was a challenge and was necessary for me because I wanted to see the connection between going to college for 4 years and getting a good job, preferably a white collar job. Because in my view at the time, um, I didn't want to be a blue collar worker. I wanted to be a white collar worker in some company. So uh, Morgan's, and they still have a placement director who encourages seniors to be prepared for these recruiters coming in. So Bethlehem Steel, a Fortune 500 company, interviewed me. Their representative interviewed me for a position that required me to be a recruiter for Bethlehem Steel in a lily white town called Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. So here I am, a black kid going from a all black community, Caroline, Madison Street, to several hundred miles away to the home office of Bethlehem Steel Corporation. And so that was my beginning to get a great opportunity. Now, keep in mind, many of those companies that came to Morgan at that time didn't come because they loved Morgan so well. They came to Morgan because the NAACP had won a major discrimination case against Bethlehem Steel and other companies. And that meant, part of that settlement meant that they would come to campuses like Morgan, HBUs, and recruit qualified students who were to be interviewed for white collar positions. White collar positions. And so they would have, those same companies would go to Loyola, Hopkins, big schools here in Maryland like that, but they never came to Morgan State College. So, did my parents want me to go over 500 miles away? No. Did most of my friends take that opportunity? Some did, but rarely they did not. Although in the black college, you learned about the four walls beyond those four walls, but now here comes an opportunity to challenge and say, I'm going to try this and do well. And so I'm at the home office. I have an office, I have a secretary, and there was a book written about people like me. This book was called The Spook Who Sat by the Door by Sam Greenlee. And what these companies would do would hire 10% of their workforce for that year just to comply with affirmative action goals. And so I was selected and I thought I did well, but they fired me.
Yes, that was my next question. Yes, they asked you to resign, but you decided to challenge.
I decided to challenge that. And here comes my Black history. Hey, this is going to happen to even the smartest of ones of you, because it's hard for me to actually share this with you on this presentation, because visualize this. These people interview you. They're all white. They know your qualifications as a graduating senior, but they're in positions that they're asking you to do something that your family's never done. Your friends have never done. They're asking you to take on these great positions, but at the same time, they're welcoming you. They're also saying, I hope you don't make it, because you're taking a job from one of their relatives. You're taking a job from one of their friends, as they see it. And that's when I learned about nepotism and how it works. Racism is how it works in a way that the sign is not there that says blacks are not allowed, or this is for colored people only. This was a velvet type of racism that suggested they smiled in your face, but just couldn't wait till you fail. You follow me? So they let me go. I took on the challenge. I called my parents, of course. I called Karen Mitchell, the congressman at that time, one of the congressmen at that time, and others. The long story short behind this, between those people I just mentioned and my own determination with EEOC, to ensure that my story was told, that the chairman of the board at that time of Bethlehem Steel says, hey, have our lawyers talk to Ronald Willis and ask him what he wants. But keep in mind how it worked. If if those companies didn't come to Morgan and recruit, of course, qualified students, they were standing the chances of losing federal contracts. Federal contracts. So to avoid losing these federal contracts, they had a quota system. And that quota system said a certain percentage of each graduating class, starting in 1973, would be minorities, females, and minorities in general. So long story short, I contested that decision of letting me go. And within 10 months, I was rehired and asked for, hey, we'll pay you off. We'll pay you for the mistake. I said, sir, no, thank you. I want you to train me for what you hired me for. Thank you very much. I didn't use any curse words. I was very polite, looked them in the eye, and said, I want to be trained for what you hired me for, please. And they did. The agreement was for me to come back to Baltimore, to take a position I'd never heard of at Morgan. It was called a safety engineer, a safety supervisor. What in the heck is that? Well, every company, especially manufacturing company, has a union side of the house and a management side of the house. So as the production goes on, these two entities meet. They meet and try to solve safety problems. So I was the negotiator between management and union. So it meant that I had to talk a lot. I had to be an investigator. I had to be a Columbo, Lieutenant Columbo. I had to get these two factions talking so they wouldn't strike. And that's where
And this is kind of where that sociology degree really came in to help, right?
absolutely, absolutely. And because it provided me the skills, the patience, the tolerance, I won't even say the tricks to get people to keep on talking so that they could avoid strikes. So I became what's called an exempt person of management. So that was the highest you can get. The CEO, the president is exempt, all the way down to the safety officers, the line foreman, the general foreman. So I was integral part of higher management. And so I listened to the hourly people with their concerns, and then I brought these concerns to management, and I was a negotiator between both. And I enjoyed that for 14 years.
Wow, 14 years. But during that time, I believe you started seeing layoffs and things like that. And that's when your plan B kind of came into action. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure, just a little bit. I'm going to say this, that it was a challenge to go from non-exempt to exempt, because believe me, there were people who did not want to see me become exempt. So I tried extra hard to write well, to speak well, to have good deductible skills and logic. And that's where Morgan came in again. I took a course called Logic at Morgan. That was very, very helpful. So yes, in those 14 years, I began to see more and more layoffs. At the Bethlehem Sparrows Point plant, there was one time when I was there, 30,000 people on the payroll and in various capacities. And so I saw layoffs after layoffs after layoffs. But being exempt, I never became laid off. I saw the hourly rank and file get laid off, but my paycheck continues. My 6 weeks vacation from the day I became exempt continued. So I was very fortunate. And you have to know what you're doing to negotiate these safety grievances. So I said to myself, you know what? What else can I do? What plan B can I focus on that will reduce the chances of me not having the American dream? So I decided, my mother was a landlady. She was pretty good at it. And I got introduced to tools and a handyman. I said, you know what? I'm going to try that. So I bought my first house in Parkside Gardens, a blue collar neighborhood in Baltimore. So I bought my first house, and I thought that was going to be my last house. But I was so happy with it. Another row house, another row house that I lived in with my parents for 27 years, and they lived there for 60 years. Same house, 60 years. So my mother rented rooms. That was her way of plan B. That was her way of saying, okay, I'm going to make it somehow by using my own house and having rooms. And it worked. So I said, I'll try that. I'll try that. So I bought this little house. Carlos J. Hold this for a second. Carlos, let me call you back. I'm on a radio station. So I bought my first house, lived there for about 2 years, and felt like I was in a matchbox. I liked it. The neighborhood was a cosmopolitan neighborhood. Black and whites were there. They were social workers, school teachers, firemen, policemen, those kind of folks. So I fit right in.
Really quickly, though,
Okay.
why don't you define a match house for us youngins that might not know what it is? A matchbox house for those that may not know who it is, what it is.
Well, my definition at that time of a matchbox house is a row house. You know, row houses, there'd be 15 of them on one side of the street, and they were 2, 3 bedroom houses, and they were all brick, and they were at least, some of them were 50, 60 years old. And so I said, I was brought up in one of these houses, and I could hear the other people talking through the bricks. I could hear them fussing and yelling and kissing. So I said, I don't want this. I want an individual house. So I stayed there for 2 years. It was in turnkey position, by the way,
Nice.
condition, by the way. And that means it's close to perfect condition. And all I had to really do was change the locks.
Is this the rental property or the one you were living in?
And my initial house was a house that I lived in
Okay.
for 2 years and felt that I had completed the American dream. But then after living there by myself, not married, no kids, I said, gee, I want something more than this. So I met these two people that started a chain reaction in my life. It wasn't my mother. It wasn't my father. It wasn't a few relatives that I had. It was Grimpler Realty. And they sent to my house two Jews, hyphen, a wife and husband team. And they convinced me to keep that first house. And by the one I'm speaking to you right now. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I didn't know who they were going to send to my home. It is sent to my home, and I said, okay, I don't want to be a landlord. They suggested that I be a landlord. So I went to St. Ambrose, an organization that's still in existence today that helps people decide if they want to be landlords, tenants, etc. And they gave me the homework that I needed. There was a company called Baltimore Neighborhood Inc. that helped both sides of the picture, both landlords and tenants with leases and agreements. So I did all this homework and I rented that first property, 4738 Chatford Avenue in East Baltimore, Parkside Gardens, and it's still there. So I bought it for $14,000. And I decided to move here I am now, keep that house, and I ended up with three mortgages. A first mortgage on that house, a first mortgage on the house I'm in now, and what's that loan? Another loan on the first house. Two mortgages and another more. Well, what a challenge that was. And so
Wow.
they call it line of credit or second mortgage. And long story short, I took those three mortgages and worked at Bethlehem Steel and moved here on Hamilton where I live and uh, within 10 years paid off the first house, paid off the first house. And within those
Wow.
same years, bought 10 more houses, and many of them are within walking distance of where I live.
Wow.
True,
Wow.
the true story.
But
And
I
so,
have a question really
sure.
quickly because with the house, before you make a purchase on these houses, what are you looking for? What's the thing that's going to make you actually decide this is a good house to buy? Because I did hear you say it was a no issues turnkey house. What were you looking for to make sure that was happening?
Well, price is a great consideration. And because I learned as a safety officer many structural, electrical, mechanical things about a house, that helped me to diagnose the the possible house I was going to buy. So there's a cliche in real estate that still applies today and will always apply. Location, location, location. So uh, this house I'm in now, it's a great location, and it has a mixture of semi-detached houses, which I have three of, uh, individual houses, which I have two of, and duplexes, which I have four of. So just taking a daily walk, a daily bike ride in my own neighborhood, I kept seeing signs, for sale by owner. Now, this neighborhood that I lived in, Hamilton, was predominantly white. And I got mixed reviews of me coming in, but I'm very proud to say that my house is the best house on the block. And the folks said, well, Mr. Willis, we want to keep our neighborhood up and straight. I said, but so do I. Watch this. So the second house I purchased was for $47,000. 47,000. I negotiated down from 49,000 to 47,000. And today is the 13th of July. I had
Mm-hmm.
an I had the house I'm in right now appraised for 375,000 firm.
Wow.
And next year, 2028, it'll be paid for. So
Wow.
I learned some strategies of how to wheel and deal and use each house as leverage to buy the second one, to buy the third one, to buy the fourth one, and so on.
Well, why don't you share a little bit about your negotiating techniques for how you purchase the house and how you price a house and speaking
Well,
up for yourself?
sure. Well, being a OSHA representative, Occupational Safety and Health, there's a federal agency called OSHA. And as a safety officer at Bethlehem Steel, Sparrows Point, we had to learn the OSHA regulations. Now, although it applied to steel company, there were also regulations in that book that applied to houses. So when I would go into a house to look at it, I would look for asbestos because I know what asbestos looks like. I would look at fiberglass. Became acutely aware of the mechanics in a house and to see if it was affected by mold or settling or if there were structural cracks. I just learned all that simply by the classes that I took to become a safety engineer. Okay. And that aided me in negotiating. Hey, mister, this house that you have looks good, but the furnace is surrounded by asbestos, or there's asbestos tiles on the floor. Oh, look at that structural crack. So the houses were 75, 45,000. And the more I talked about the delinquencies in the house, the more the price came down. So that was one strong negotiating technique that I learned.
So when you know your stuff about the house, you come in with that list. They know that now the value's gone down, so they're more willing to negotiate because you know you're also interested in buying too, so you have more power that way.
Sure, sure. That's absolutely true. That's absolutely true.
And did you have another tip you were going to tell us?
Um, yes. The other tip is never accept the asking price. Never accept the asking price. talk to the neighbors. For instance, the houses on Pioneer Drive. On one side of Pioneer Drive, there are no sump pumps. But on the other side of Pioneer Drive, they should have sump pumps. So the neighbors that I talked to before I bought the houses on Pioneer Drive, I asked, hey, neighbor, I'm Ronald Willis. Can you tell me something about the house that's for sale? He says, don't buy on this side because our sump pump won't uh, protect us from the gush of water coming in because we live in back of a hill. But the houses on the other side, where you're thinking about buying, have no sump pumps. Really? Here again, an outgoing personality, a handshake, looking them in the eye. People are willing to tell you about the houses in the neighborhood. So then I began to, again, go to real estate classes. At that time, there was a lot of real estate classes that you could go to and study uh, the composition of a house. And I got to say this, as a corpsman and a medic in the Navy and the Army National Guard, they teach you about the different organs in the body. Well, if you look at it this way, the organs that we have in our body is very sequel to the makeup of a house, any house, whether it's a $14,000 house or $1 billion house. You know, you have a furnace, you have an electrical system, and these systems are within our body. So your body tells you when there's problems. If you ignore them, that's one thing. But if you want to correct them, and a house is the same way. If the roof is leaking, you know, the house will tell you. If the furnace is not working, the house will tell you. And the body is the same way. Some of the courses that I spent learning as a corpsman and a medic related to my ability to diagnose a house. For instance, I'm interested in a house, I go inside, I turn the faucet on in the basement. I turn the faucet on the second floor. If there's a third floor, I turn the first on. I'm looking at the water pressure. We have BP in our bodies. We have blood pressure. There's an analogy between the two. So I want you to understand that I began to relate these analogies, and that helped me buy all of my houses without a certified home inspection company, because I was able to analyze and say, hey, you know what? I don't need to spend these extra dollars. And in my being in business for almost 45 years now, I've never been accused of in court or in a safety organization as a defective house, because I'm able to correct it. I'm able to abate the problem, fix the problem. And I'm proud to say that in these 45 years, I've never been to court for a hazard, for a deficiency. And I've been to court countless times for tenants not paying their rent, but never because of a defective plumbing, electrical, cement work, or anything like that. So I hope that answered your question.
It does. It does. And you gave me some really good information there as well. So that's exciting. This is such great information. And one of the other things that I'm wondering is you use the term use what you have to get what you want. What
That's
else
correct.
did you have? I mean, actually, it's kind of obvious. You had a lot of knowledge that you've been able to gain over the years, but what else did you have besides the house and the education? I love that you also took some extra classes in what you're doing as well with the real estate courses as well. So when you walk into those rooms, you know the language.
Right.
You know the language.
I still have my Bethlehem Steel supervisor's hat with my name on it. See there? Ronald A. Willis, exempt
Yes,
member,
I see it.
exempt
I
member
see
of
it.
management. And this little cup here, I'm not sure if
Oh,
you can
you got
see.
to put it in front of your face. Put it right in front of your face. Yes, there you go. 1794.
Right. This particular insurance has saved me not a couple of $100s, but thousands, thousands. And to answer your question,
Wow.
I am a outgoing person, meaning that my neighbor told me about this where I live now 45 years ago. This is across the street from me. I said, hey, Ed, what is that? What does that symbol mean? He told me what it meant, and I followed up. Follow-up skills are so important in this business. I
Yeah.
followed up, and 5 of my 10 properties are under this insurance. And it means that no matter how small your house is, your investment house is, if you're not properly insured, you could lose everything.
Oh,
Everything.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I investigated this company. I've been with them for 5 years, and I have a lot of money invested in them. And all the money that I've invested in them in these 45 years, I get it all back. So I tell your audience, investigate Baltimore Equitable Insurance. That 1794 suggests that's how long they've been in business.
Wow. So they
Okay,
should know what they're doing. It's a
know
few
what they're
hundred,
doing,
few
and
centuries.
I have had claims. That's correct. I have had claims, a few claims, and they paid me every drop and more. They paid me what I deserved, and they didn't increase the insurance.
Oh,
So
that's big.
I've
Usually
been
you get dinged to
yes,
use your
thank you. Right.
insurance. That's big.
So to answer your question, I think, in my opinion, you have to be an outgoing personality. You have to be firm and fair with your tenants.
Now we're getting to the next part of our segment, and this is where we get to talk about your mother, Snooky. Who was she, and what did watching your mother rent rooms teach you about housing and people?
My mother was, she lived on Caroline Street, 805 North Caroline Street in East Baltimore. She was a homeowner. Her mother gave her the same house, and she lived in it. My mother lived in it. Mother's mother lived in it. And she was a fifth grade educated person. Uh, she was very outgoing. Uh, she raised 2 sons, Rudolph and Ronald. My name is Ronald. I was the oldest. And she saw her house go from an outhouse, Caroline Street, having plumbing outside, to uh, indoor plumbing. She saw a wood coal stove go to a gas stove. And she
Wow.
saw, because she rented to her rooms to renters, and she saw new windows, new roof, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So she was a landlady, and she negotiated the best she could with mechanics of all kinds to do all kinds of work at that address. So she never went beyond that address. She just used what she had to get.
What she wanted.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
today, I'm 77, and I have tenants living in my house, but they have their own level. They're not renting rooms, they're renting apartments in my home house. So I live in the middle. There's a tenant upstairs and downstairs. They are legal tenants that I follow all the rules of Baltimore City that I'm supposed to follow. The lead inspections, the general inspections required by the city. In fact, all my properties have come up to code for years to comply with the new lead laws and the new
Mm.
requirements for registration by Baltimore City. So that's what I have done. I've used what I have to get what I want. And what I wanted was more houses. And now I have 10. I sold
Okay.
2 for a phenomenal amount 10 years ago. And guess who I sold them to? Take a
The
guess.
yeah, I heard it last week. The tenants.
The 10. I sold them to the
Yes, they
10.
paid you, I guess, like 40 years for that house, and then one day they're like, you were convinced them you should buy it for your
To buy it.
legacy, correct?
For their legacy, for generational wealth, and for them to see ownership. Keeping in mind that most of my tenants are divorcees, like myself. Most of them have had children, unlike me, and most of them have bounced back from adversity between layoffs, the divorce, they're bouncing back, and some of them will continue to rent until they pass away. They prefer not owning a house. See?
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
But one question, the name of your company, I believe, is Snooky's Apartments. When did you decide to honor your mother through the name of your company?
While she was still alive, she said,
Nice.
"Ron, why do you need a second house? Why do you need the fourth house?" She died at 90 years of age. But by that time, I had up to 7 or 8 houses. And she loved going with me, fixing things in these houses, having cups of teas or coffee with the tenants. And so that kept her alive. And it keeps me alive today.
Mm.
I have no relatives. I have no relatives to speak of. I have relatives, but we unfortunately didn't have the bond that many families have. There was no
Right.
hatred between us because they moved away from Caroline Street, and my parents stayed on Caroline Street for 60 plus years. So I would see these relatives in passing every 5 years, but there was no family meetings. There was no. My father was from the West Indies, so I knew none of his relatives. My mother was a mulatto, and that meant that somewhere down the line, uh, a white man fathered my mother's mother. And so my mother stayed in Caroline Street, and she saw her son, Ronald Willis, go from 0 houses to at least 7 or 8 houses in her lifetime. So she was
Wow.
a motivating force to see this happen in her lifetime. So she was very proud.
So,
So,
what responsibility do you really feel because you're owning a property in the same neighborhood that you grew up in, like that community pride? What is the responsibility that you carry with that?
well, I didn't grow up in Hamilton. I grew up on Caroline and Madison Street. So that was the place I wanted to get away from, not stay
Mm.
there. Now, there are pockets in every community that have become historic. I have such a property in East West Baltimore on Arkin Trolley Terrace. So I don't live there, but I have 3 wonderful tenants in a 3-story building, 3 separate tenants. So I have vested interest in where I live right now. Some of my neighbors call me the mayor of Birchwood Avenue. And because just recently I had the city put the whole street, the whole block, and the corresponding blocks LED lights
Wow.
out front where the street lights are, LED lights. And so I'm in close contact with my councilman, uh, Ryan Dorsey. He's an excellent councilman, and I had learned how to maneuver and work with people to get things done in my community. Yeah.
And one more question is that tenant question. What is important when you're deciding on the tenant? Because you've had tenants for 40 years, but the same kind of contracts you had with them are not the kind of contracts that you're going to make now. So what's really important for when you are picking a tenant?
Looking them in the eye, watching their body language. And when I ask the questions, see how they twitch, see how they
Mm.
candidly answer the questions, both by way of body language and, of course, credentials. There was a movie star that I admired a lot. His name was Lieutenant Columbo. I'm trying to remember his name right now. His
Columbo.
Lieutenant Columbo. The movies still come on one of the
Yeah,
TV, and he has
yeah,
this way of trying to find the murderer. All right,
yes. He's
and
like a detective, right?
detective,
Yes.
detective. So that's one approach. That's one approach that works for me. So I love catching tenets in lies. I love that. I
Mm.
have a tendency to love that. Oh, Mr. Willis. Mr. Willis, I know you don't believe in reefer smoking and you don't want smoking in your apartments. I don't smoke. So I said, oh, really? That's correct. It says that in the lease. By the
Yeah,
lease.
but
By the way,
you could
the lease is one of my Bibles. So I'll get close to that tenant real close.
Uh-oh, you're out of frame. You're out of frame.
I'll get real close to that tenant.
Mm-hmm.
Real
Yep.
close, proximity wise. If I smell reefer, I'm danger
Come to the
neighbor.
left. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
I'll,
You're
I'll
perfect
think.
again.
Now I know that. Uh, okay, that weed smoking is allowed. Is a law. It's the law now. You know.
Right.
But do I have to have it in my apartments where children are involved? You know,
No.
where parents haven't gotten the message yet that it is harmful to small children. And me, I have a slight case of asbestosis because I work for Bethlehem Steel.
Mm.
The moment I smell any kind of ignition, car ignition, smoking, cigarette ignition, reefer ignition, my voice changes almost immediately like
Yeah.
this.
Me too. Me
So,
too.
so to answer your question, there are a variety of factors that go in selecting tenants because they are a landlord's lifeline.
Yeah.
So, the credit score has a tremendous lot to do with it. Uh, uh, the new formula for being a landlord tenant is that it must make 3 times the rent gross. 3 times the rent gross. So that if the rent is $1,000 hypothetically, and they should be making $3,000 a month gross.
Okay.
So that takes in their other essentials other than rent. You see?
So you're looking to take a third of their income, their
Correct.
gross income.
In
Okay.
today's world, and I have one tenant that's not on Section 8, but she's in a program by the city government and the HUD. HUD is a federal arm that does a lot of business with housing. Um, she's for battered women. There are programs for
Mm.
people who are legitimate, who have legitimate social or psychological problems and other problems that the government kind of oversees their tenancy. And this is called Jacob Wells. There's an
Jacob
organization,
Well.
Jacob Wells, where one of my tenants is I get $15.75 a month from this tenant for a 3-bedroom semi-detached house. And she's been with me for about 9 years.
Nice.
She's excellent.
Nice.
She's excellent. So she's covered by a social worker, a police officer, caseworker, and me. And so I have to be on my toes and making ensuring that I'm a good landlord, not a slumlord, and dealing with her and all my other 17 tenants. So
Wow.
I've enjoyed this ride, and I can see it coming to a conclusion because I'm 77 now, and there's going to come a time when I've had enough, but not now because I'm still having fun.
Yes, and speaking of fun, you're also now mentoring people
Oh
to
yes,
help. And we have, I don't know if Jackson wants to come and screen, but Jackson as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you mentor and the things that you share? Hey,
Uh, I,
Jackson.
yes, I'm here mentoring with Mr. Willis. He's amazing. He's a wonderful person, an amazing landlord, a great man. He's been mentoring me for some time now, and I'm just so eager to learn from him, and be here under his wing, So shit, I don't know how much more I could say. I mean, if you have any questions for me, I would love to answer them. But you know,
Well,
that's
here's a question for you because you've decided that you want to get into real estate. How did you find Mr. Willis?
oh
can I answer that?
sure.
So I have a real estate friend, female, Lisa Harbor, who represents a company out of Columbia,
Mm-hmm.
and she introduced me to this young man here and his wife to be at the time, and they wanted my houses that I was bidding for, and so I was negotiating back and forth, like I told you, some of my tricks or some of my methods, and so this young man here had a piece of paper, those little white yellow sheets of paper.
A little post-it or something.
Post-it.
Yeah.
He said 78,000. He put it in my hand. He would offer 78. No, 73,000. 73,000. So I looked at it and says, "Come up, son." He would come up enough, but the existing tenants who had been there for 16 years, said, we'll pay 78. Cash is king. So,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I sold it to him. So that's how we met. That's how we met through a friend of ours, mutual friend, and he thought he was going to try to negotiate, but I negotiated for the price that I thought it was worth.
Well, it was also the first right of refusal too.
First right, that's right. The first right of refusal that the landlord must respect is the tenant has the first right to offer to the for the sale.
Yeah, to match it. So
To match it.
yeah, so I offered 73, but they offered 78, and so since they offered 78, he had to go with them anyway because they actually did want the property. So
Wow.
it,
Wow.
it worked out. It worked out. I really am happy. Just learn. I learned from that interaction there too. So
What
I always
what
told
made you decide to ask him to go from just somebody I've met and tried to buy a house from to actually becoming his mentee?
Well, I really did want to be a landlord. I was going to purchase the property to be a landlord, rent out a portion, and live in the portion, which he had been teaching me already. During the time of us going through and looking at his various properties, because he was thinking about selling, not just the one, but I think a couple of them he was thinking about selling. So we were going around to them. He was showing me about them. And I think they retard one or something. The roof on one on Architrave or something.
Oh yeah, it had to be replaced.
Had to be retarded. The roof had to be replaced. So he went to go check retard.
Right.
So we went. We went and checked that out. And so I just been learning so much about just being a landlord. And so I just kept wanting to just learn more. And so
Yeah.
then I recently relocated back to Baltimore. And I was just saying that this is what I need to be doing. This is what I need to be doing. So
Nice.
and so I'm eager. I'm all the way back in. 100%.
Well, you got the right man to teach you in the shadow, so I'm very
Definitely,
excited for you. So thank you so much.
definitely.
Uh,
Thank you.
so that I think my next question is going to be our last question. What remains unfinished for you, Ronald Willis?
Well, I've given Morgan $500 for lifetime alumni membership. So
Nice.
I want to be altruistic because as I have no family, I want to know what love is to the point where I can share this with somebody else. Somebody
Nice.
who's deserving, and preferably someone who is helping me at this stage of my life. I don't need to have her help me buy another house or pay off another mortgage, but help me to maintain what I already have.
Oh, wait, is this a dating request? You're looking for love on my podcast here, Mr. Willis?
Well, I have somebody in mind. I do have somebody
Oh,
in mind, and she's filling out the application every day.
nice.
so, so,
Nice.
so that I would like a dream to come true to make sure, because I don't want to be a divorcee for the second time. Nobody does. Nobody does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't have children out of that first marriage, and only marriage was 40 years ago. So I've been career focused. Now I have two wonderful hobbies that I want to. I've completed one of them, and the first one is a Model A Ford. You know what that is?
Yes.
Okay, it's a
Yes. The Model A Ford.
1930 Model A Ford. I want to finish that. I'm over 99% finished, but I also bought recently, not about a year ago, a car called a Model T Ford.
You bought one of those? Isn't that
Yeah,
like the first one?
1927. So
Wow.
I would like to say they're both finished. Now I can drive them every place. I drive the model. By the way, I
Aren't you
drive the model.
scared? There's like no safety features in those things. I watched a whole video on on it.
No,
They don't have a windshield for you to things just fly. You have to wear the
but
goggles.
I drive it up. I've driven it to DC, Annapolis, Pennsylvania,
Does it
uh,
even go fast enough to get on the highway? I mean,
45, 50 miles an hour. Her
that is,
name, by the way,
oh
model,
man.
by the way, the name of the Model A is Snooky, after my mother's nickname. After
Mm,
my my business is called Snooky's Apartment Properties, LLC, after my mother. Can you imagine you're in something that your mother actually contributed to? She got into the car, she got into the bubble seat. Um, she went with you to all the places that I go. And I think that increased her life, and so that I'm very proud of. And I have traveled. Oh, by the way, you didn't ask this question, but I'm a 25-year veteran in
right,
both the
right.
Army National Guard, the Navy Reserve, and the Air Guard and the Army Reserve. 25 years of service that
Mm,
I've put
thank
in an
you.
effort. And thank you. Well, you're welcome. In an effort to continue on my career. And maybe the next podcast, I'll share with you the ambition it took to go from one branch to another branch to another branch and so on. And I started off at 33 years of age going through basic training.
Wow.
Most
Wow.
most people start off at maybe 19 or 20 or 25.
20. My brother was 17 when he did basic training. You were 33. That's a
33.
world of difference.
World of difference. Yeah. Did he make a career out of it?
Yes, he's been in the Air Force for since then. So, yeah, it's been over 20 years that he's been in the service, and he just a few years ago became an officer in
There
the
we
Air Force as well.
there we go. I was a non-commissioned officer. Your brother was a commissioned officer.
He
So
just became one. He just became one a few
that's
years
great.
ago.
Great.
He's a I think he's special forces, special ops.
There we
Yeah,
go. There we
he
go.
likes shooting things, I think. I don't know.
Well, officers plan. They plan a lot of stuff. They plan how to shoot. They don't actually pull the trigger. But
Mm,
I'm glad that he is another successful veteran. Yeah.
yes, yes. Oh wow.
So I
That
teach a
is
group of
we'll definitely do that. If you're up to it, we could talk about a successful military,
career.
reserves, honor guard, all of those things, because not everybody has experience in all of the different ones that you
All
talked
different.
about.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. You
Okay.
heard it here first.
Sure.
All right, we'll schedule another time.
Thank you.
And then I guess that was my last question. And this is just to let me see how we're doing on time. Yeah, we'll end it right here. Thank you so much for
Sure.
coming on the podcast.
Sure.
Why don't you? I will tell you that you are going to have a website on mysteryai.net/Willis, Willis. That's where people will be able to find your not your website, but your email and your phone number, especially those ladies that want to reach out to you, I guess, if you're still taking applications. And and anybody that be interested in mentorship, I'm assuming, or renting
Yes.
from you.
Yes.
So we will put that out there as well. So it'll be right there with the website so people can contact you via email.
Sure.
Sounds good.
All
And
right.
thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. I'm very excited to get it out to our community, our Morgan alumni as well.
Sure.
And that concludes it.
I
Thank
have
you
one.
so much.
I have one favor to ask of you.
Sure.
Can you send me a recording of what we've done today?
Absolutely. Do you want it when it's edited or do you want it um,
When it's
beforehand?
edited, it's fine. When it's
Okay.
edited, it's
Yeah,
fine.
absolutely. I'm going to send you a copy.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Along with, I always forget to say this. We're going to have the website and we're going to have an ebook companion to go with it. So you'll have a bit of a book to share your knowledge as well to
Great.
go along with it and help others in this journey of becoming real estate moguls.
Sure. Sure. Okay. And I have
All
a
right.
surprise for you the next time I do the broadcast.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right. And thank you, Jackson, again for coming out as well and being on the podcast. Should have brought you out first because you had such a great introduction to him.
So glad I could help, be of any help and assistance. All right. It was nice meeting you.
Before I let you go, if today's conversation inspired you and you have something to share with this community, I want to hear from you. Whether you want to be a guest on Mystery to Mastery or you want to get your brand in front of this audience as a sponsor, the link is in the show notes. Get on my calendar and let's talk. See you next time on the Mystery to Mastery podcast.